benefit to the time of use rate, there's really not nearly as much benefit now to having people operate off-peak, which is kind of the reason that this rate is not gonna really work the way it is.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, yeah, it's not beneficial. And what's the cost of the meter for the A2? You have to get a different meter for that, right?
Well, most of these are single phase, so those meters are probably around $325, but yes, we do. I mean, this is replacing a $58 Centron house
Yeah.
meter, you know. We could do it tomorrow, but the rate is not only so restrictive, because the requirement is you have to do this, you have to change out your heating system. Not only do you have to do that, but it's really not that near as much of a benefit to us now. And I would have to go through all these numbers based on the shift in the last 2 years. The reason I haven't is because nobody's on it. No one's asked about it. At the time this went in, we were talking about some kind of a program across the street. Yeah. We're trying to do a bunch of things across the street. I'm looking into whether we can, I know that the residential customers can call through Mass Save and do the residential heat audit thing. But, you know, all those people over there are essentially residents, but because it's a group of buildings, and because say they behave a little funny because you know it's still, even though it's a municipal building, for the purposes of construction, it's a commercial building. So their attitude is, well, it's not really residential, but it is. They're also on rate A. They've been on rate A forever, even though we have three-phase meters over there with demand. They're just on a rate A, just like a house would be. So I'm still kind of pressing them on that and seeing if that's something. Because if we did that, you know, some kind of an analysis like that, and we went back to the Council on Aging and said, you know, you're losing like thousands of dollars a year through heat or something like that, then that would be something that would warrant this type of a program, because then it would be worth it, because people could still turn up the heat during the day if they wanted to. You know, the people, if they got cold, there's still thermostat control. All it's gonna do is make the fans turn faster, but the charging has already been done at, you know, 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. And at 14 to 15 cents a kilowatt hour, all they're doing is spinning those fans. It might be a huge savings, so that could be something in the future. But I mean, for right now, I did propose doing the same thing to the customer charges, knocking it down, but in retrospect, there's really no point to do that, because there's nobody on it, so. And on the second page, you've got a similar situation with the reconnection policy. Since time it said $40, reconnection fee's never been $40, it's always been $20, so I did change it to $20, but again, nobody's on this rate.
That's normal business hours.
Yeah. Right, exactly. You can see it's $200 after hours. We've had pretty good luck with that too. You know, we were running into the problem where we started having a lot of people just coming in, like, you know, like right at 3:05, right at 3:10, and it's like, oh, you know, you're gonna make me pay all this money for, you know, 10 minutes, and it's like, well, listen, you know, there's nobody here to put your meter back in. This is a union shop. It's a call out. So yeah, that's what it costs, and it's actually worked out pretty well. It's drastically reduced the number of meter call outs. I want to say in 2012, the number of times people are actually willing to pay the $200, I think was only about 5 or 6 times, maybe 7. Where the year before it was just, you know, come in the next morning. It's like, I went out 4 times last night. It's like, you know, and this is when the meter reader was doing the call outs. I mean, by the time you have him in for, he would get a 2-hour minimum. By the time you had him in for that plus a vehicle, you're already out, because we were only collecting $75. We were barely breaking even. That's why this all changed initially. But again,
they had plenty of time to come in.
Well, that's what I mean. There were some that you got the impression they were doing it routinely, and maybe some of them just, you know, ran into trouble or a tough time, whatever, I don't know. But it's worked out pretty well so far. Haven't had any major problems. So, I mean,
Vote on this?
excuse me, yes, if you,
Will?
Yeah, I do have a couple questions if you could indulge them. One is that I'm glad to see that a rate study was done and some adjustments were made,
Well,
especially
rate
on.
study hasn't been done recently, but John said we're gonna do one this year.
Oh, okay, but I'm glad to see some adjustments as to some of the charges that have been talked about previously. But one of the things that I know I've talked about a number of times in the past was whether you were gonna be looking at a rate adjustment for those folks that are on some type of assistance.
It's on the agenda,
It's on the
actually.
agenda.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Down the bottom now.
Oh, okay, the lifeline, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's on the agenda.
okay.
So, is there a motion here to accept John's recommendations?
That's all the ones in red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moved.
The second?
It's a motion?
I made a motion.
The second?
Motion in a second, yes.
Okay, Greg,
Yes?
and Chris,
Yes.
and yes. Yes?
I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings back, I had asked about the $4 charge computed on a calculator, how much that amounted to the $4 charge. And Driscoll had said that it was, the $4 charge was used for overhead, so the next meeting I followed up on it again. Asked what the overhead was for, and that's when he brought out that it was used to pay for the billing. Just curious what the amount of the $4 would go to billing, if it was the whole $4? And if it was, you know, how is it he can adjust it down now to the $3 if,
Because we're outsourcing our billing.
I realize that, and that was one of the questions I had asked him, what they do with the $4. Took 2 meetings to get it out of him that it was for billing. Now, how
Are
much
you
does
asking me,
it,
where does the $4 go? when
how
they-
much does it cost to do the billing is what I'm asking.
Well, right, at the moment, it costs a lot closer to $3 per customer, and 2 years ago, it was a lot closer to 4. So what's happened is, it's gradually just kind of done this, and like I said in the past, I mean, anytime I can save people money, I'm gonna do it, so that's why I don't feel, there's no sense in over collecting a buck from everyone. I realize it's only a savings of a buck, but
I applaud you for saving people money, that's great. That's what this place should be for, the whole place. My question is, how much does it cost to do the billing? Not what you charge the customers for it. What do you pay the outsourcing company that does the billing?
what do we pay Bill Trust annually?
Whoever it is, I don't even know, it's Bill Trust,
Yeah, it's about $26,000 a year
$26,000 a year you pay them.
to process 42,000, roughly 42,000 bills.
At $3 a piece.
No, see, that's what, Bill Trust is not the only entity involved here. We have a meter reader, we have an office manager, we have a staff accountant, we have me, we have a superintendent. Everybody has some have a much smaller piece. Probably the biggest chunk of that expense is the meter reader, because about 40% of his labor throughout the year is spent on meter reading. He also drives a vehicle, which has been turned out to be very expensive to maintain. So all that stuff is built in there. So you've got the cost of Bill Trust, you've got the cost for the meter technician.
Meters?
Yes, yeah. Occasionally we have to change meters. There's a mechanism for that. Everyone's labor, time, and materials is in there. As much as I could gather together, and still the figure I get comes way closer to 3 than 4. So that's why it's 3. That's, it's just easy to work with round numbers. But if we do this again in a couple of years and ends up being 2, then it goes to 2. I mean, eventually there might come a point where we're doing, we've got it so streamlined that they're just, there may not be a customer charge that's a flat charge, but that means we'll just be recovering our metering cost through another charge, whether it's transition. I am bound by DPU regulations on which particular charge I can apply which one of our costs to, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm still kind of confused. Maybe I've looked into it too far and reading too much into it, I'm not too sure, but in 2009 is when the $4 charge started, I think. Now,
Well,
before that,
there was always a minimum charge of $4. That's what changed. So
you
if
just changed it to a customer charge and,
I changed it to charging people $4 every month, not just a minimum charge. And the reason I did that is because if you're home all year, great. The minimum charge never applied before. You paid for the energy you consumed.
Mhm.
If you go away to Florida for 5 months, which a lot of people
Or
do,
camps and stuff like that,
or
sure,
anything, right?
sure.
Exactly.
that's what brought the whole thing on, was my mother gets charged $4. They never go see the meter. It costs you nothing to see that meter, because you don't see it for 6 months. And the next bill that she gets bagged for 6 months of reading a meter that doesn't get read for $4. Now, at the end of 6 months, she gets the bill, it's the $4 times the 6 months, and it's on that first bill. So I looked at her bill and I says, wow, why do they charge you all this? They don't, I says, I'll ask them. I asked her that question and I asked her how many customers there were. It's a grand total of $170,000. So what you're telling me is after the $27,000 that you use for the company that does the billing, there's still $125,000 in costs to read the meters, and the guy, the truck, whatever. I just, it's kind of going around in my head as far as the cost of that $4. It just seems like a ton of money that's coming in that, where does it go? That's all, I'm just curious where it goes. I'm just,
Just if I may, just based upon the amount of billings that you said, that's 4,200 times 4 times the 12 months, that's
42,000.
42,000.
42,000 bills.
42,000 bills, not 4,200.
42,000.
42, okay.
Any other questions?
That's a substantial amount of money, because I was looking at it, 4,200 bills at $4 over 12 months period, collecting it, that'd be over 200,000, so you're collecting much more than that. I just add another zero to that, so you're collecting almost 2 million, somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million.
No, you're doing something. I'll tell you what, can I break that down for you and send it to you and
Yeah, if you would,
Dave- and
please. Yeah,
Dave?
just
that'd be great,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah.
Because we're not,
Not collecting $2 million in the service.
No.
No, I hope not.
$2 million.
I hope not.
$2 million.
Pilot
will
payment
collect
would
in
be
3
$2
months
million.
from everybody, so that's not, I'll break it down better.
Thank you.
42,000 bills with the bills that we're paying to have billed. That's how many bills billing companies putting out.
Per year.
Oh, for the entire year, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that would,
Julie?
that still would be about $200,000.
That's about it, yeah, supposed to.
The figure that I got,
I'll get it to you.
Okay,
I'll
thank
get it
you.
to
the figure that I got at the $4 fee was $168,000, and at $3, using the same figures, it would be $126,000. So if bill trust is, what, $26,000 a year?
Yes.
I would like to see the breakdown as far as labor, time and materials.
I'll be sure and get you a copy then too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be an interesting figure to take a look at.
The only one follow-up question I have, if I may, on the $4 charge, after the second meeting asking about it, you had said to me that there were 3,600 customers that pay the $4 charge. I think that was the number you gave me, that's how I got, times 4 was $168,000.
Yeah, well, they don't
Income.
all pay 4, some of them pay 8,
Okay,
which now they're gonna pay 3 and 6 instead
are
of 4.
are there some that don't pay? Are there any bills, any meters that are read that do not get charged?
About 16 or 17 of them. Everybody on rate 1, which is some of the municipal, large users like the high school, the sewer plant, and one of the water, Sawyer Street, yes. And if that turns out to have been, in retrospect, a mistake over the last 20 years, that's something that the rate study done by an outside guy will pick up.
Mhm.
And he'll recommend that, because yes, it does cost us money to read those 16, 17 meters as well, and I understand that. But part of it was, the people in that rate class are paying so much more money by orders of 10, by orders of magnitude, that it's like, paper mill pays me $186,000 a month, does it make sense to add $4 on there? Maybe it does. That's
How
what-
much do you pay them for the power you buy from the paper mill? I mean, you show
On
3.
average, we pay about 6 cents.
No, I mean, how much total a month roughly goes back to them? Because you list on here, Seaman Paper is 3,444,779 kilowatt hours. What do we get for that? I mean, I realize they're a big customer. Is that rate that we charge them, or we pay them for that power?
We buy power from.
We
the
purchase
landfill.
all the power that they generate at the Gardner landfill.
I realize that, and it's 3,400,000. My question is, how much does that cost us? What do we pay
We
them?
pay them kilowatt hour.
We pay them per kilowatt hour on average last year, I wanna say about 6.2 cents.
Okay, is that what we pay pretty much when we buy it? Or are we giving them a better rate, or is,
No, that's all we're paying them. No, our all-in wholesale power cost is not 6.2 cents, it's much higher than that.
okay, so they get we pay them less? is
It's
what-
it's a deal, yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious what we pay